right, welcome back to Cantina Chronicles. Special day here. Just Grant and I, just Big G and I, doing our thing. Adam is feeling a bit under the weather, some of the old Minoc measles, I think. But here we are. We're going to be talking. Maybe we're the last ones to talk about this. I'm not sure.
Right before we started the pod, Ben was like, "Grant, can I count on you?" I was like, "You know you can."
Always.
We'll see what happens.
No,
I could doom the galaxy.
No, I mean, so we're going to talk about Ahsoka episode 4, and to be honest, I don't know the name of the episode. Is that a great way to start?
The Fallen Jedi. I'm going to jump in there and just give you the title.
That's
Fallen
right,
Jedi.
The Fallen Jedi. I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Sorry, Fallen Jedi. No,
just in general.
Yeah, part
Fallen
4.
Jedi.
Yeah.
All right, we're just gonna sort of whirlwind through this episode, and not in order, just about things, because Grant and I have the pleasure of working together, and he's been suggesting certain things as I pass him in the hallways, but we haven't had the full conversation.
A lot of Gandalf memes going around.
Tell me why you love this episode.
We've been talking about lots of other theories. I know the internet's been abuzz with theories after this episode. I know this episode has sort of reinvigorated interest in the show in a major way. This is I think the best episode of streaming Star Wars show that I've seen thus far from Disney, which is
really this is the one.
I'm not
Andor?
just saying that. I'm not. Yeah,
better than all of Andor.
Well, Andor is incredible. Sorry. Aside from Andor, I'm just judging this by the whole like Favreau, Filoni, Mandoverse, just in that realm.
I would agree.
This is sort of what I feel like is Star Wars, like hits every pillar. We do a whole Pillars of Star Wars bonus series, which is I think people can access somehow. We'll set up a whole system for that. But that is they hit everything in this episode, and this episode really tugs on your emotions. It pushes the envelope. It shows you new things. It expands the lore, and you have incredible dialogue and action sequences and. There's the Lego set. The first one I saw from the series comes from this episode. Yeah. Obviously, there's a couple set piece moments. I love this episode.
Me too. I feel like this is their stride. Like this is the spirit animal of this series. Was this episode where it's very Japanese, like samurai flick, like vintage. It's like you said, Pinnacle. It's like two like foes with lightsabers facing off, spouting ideology at each other, carefully measured strokes. It shows like a side of Ahsoka we've never seen before, which is just, this is like how far she's gone.
Possibly the dark side. Yeah.
Why do you say that? I love that.
Well, I mean, she does throw Shin Hati against that one of the standing stones in the circle in a pretty aggressive fashion. It seemed
she was like trying to break her neck.
Like emotions took over in that moment. And then also Balin, I think, reacts to that moment that's when he starts really laying down the sort of like overhead attacks.
I know, and he was he was saying a lot of crazy stuff to Ahsoka, and so again, haven't really looked at other people's theories. This is just going in naked. So, but I don't know.
That's how you go in the world between worlds.
He
That's what you do.
Her like he was like you. He's like you leave a wake of destruction. He was like accusing her of being this like mass murderer.
That's right. I think when their sabers first lock up, he's like, like your legacy, like your masters before you will be of destruction, death and destruction. I love this from Balin Skull because he really does feel like a disenfranchised Jedi that left at the end of the Clone Wars. It really does. Like you feel that backstory is alive and well, and you feel like he has completely, utterly turned his back on the Jedi at this point, given that he's now serving a greater good or hoping to accomplish a greater good by bringing Thrawn back and restoring the remnant empire, pulling people together, which is like, I don't know what that means yet. I have lots of theories about what's going on there, and we'll get to that, I think, towards the end of the episode, like our discussion, but this episode was so cool. I think you see a lot of characters open up in this episode. And like Sabine is such a cool episode for Sabine. There's a couple action moments where it's just some of the coolest action I've seen in a Star Wars show. And like, again, I love everything I've seen in Mando and I love everything I've seen in Andor, but like there's something about just the the cool gadgetry. And I think Sabine is all as a character. You also know she's the smartest person in the room wherever she is, which is like another thing that's super fun that I think we don't get enough of. It's kind of like the anti Han Solo character. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's like a character that's actually super competent and one step ahead of everyone, much like Thrawn. Honestly, it's almost like they kind of hold equal power on each side of the war here. But yeah, love Sabine in this episode. I thought this was a great episode for Sabine, and I thought it was all very believable.
Yes.
I thought there was a lot of foreshadowing in the beginning where Ahsoka and her are talking about Ezra being out there and can I count on you and all that stuff. I thought it was a little heavy-handed with the foreshadowing. Like I was like, okay, this this choice is definitely going to come up at some point where basically, she has Ahsoka's like, if it means denying Thrawn's return, I'm happy with Ezra being out there. Like she says something to that effect in this episode, and I was like, and Sabine just hears it,
You
and
can
then
see she's like,
you could just like, no.
She's like, yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, and that's all at the beginning of the episode, and then obviously at the end of the episode.
And they set up her character perfectly so that makes sense. Like you said, yeah, every beat, I was never left like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. Which I mean, I actually do kind of a lot in Star Wars, but then like immediately forgive them. I'm like, well, I can do some mental gymnastics here, and that makes sense now. But it was just all very organic the way everything went through. You were talking about characters opening up. One of my favorite characters that got opened up was Marak.
Yeah, quite
literally just got owned.
Yeah, like a smoke bomb going off.
Yeah, I thought it looked. I mean, the stuff I've read was like, oh, it was green smoke. My first impression was like a hive of bees or something that just got like opened up, and it was just like bees escaped him.
Yeah.
But he's. Yeah,
I loved it. I absolutely adored that part of it. It definitely evoked sort of samurai cinema that I adore, and so, but just in a sort of Disney way, which was just a shadowy dust that sort of like explodes out of the torso. But I love that moment. It just what a beautiful action set piece moment that was, and the Inquisitor saber actually looked great in this moment. And I know we talk a lot about the spinning saber and we get the story idea that it provides this sort of what they think is an edge in combat and sort of they always try to cheat. The Darksiders are always trying to just find the fastest route or the quickest route to power. So obviously this is just one method that they use, but all that stuff. But it kind of never worked in Rebels.
It never
works. Like, it was just so much at once.
It's intimidating,
basically. And so when you do it with one character and you kind of do it in these quiet set piece moments in the woods, I was like, this was great. I thought it was excellent. I really love that fight. The noise he makes when he gets cut open, woo! Like sound design in this episode, so many cool noises.
I think sound. Like I said earlier, they really found their, found their speed. The score is phenomenal. The sound design's amazing. It looks beautiful. Obviously all the beats are great. Marak is interesting. I feel like that's the like Inquisitor move of last resort. Is like it.
Is Marak interesting?
Yes, and I mean
The internet seems to think so. I did zero theorizing about this character and just was like, cool. He's the smoke. Well, he's the smoke monster from Lost.
Yeah, I will pose one question to you. I mean, just like. Yeah, I guess like what does it mean? Like I feel like eventually they will backfill his character, but even though we'll be like, well then he died. I did love the way that he got dispatched. It was like hearkened to that the last fight between Maul and Obi-Wan, where it was like one measured stroke opened him up, and that was it. That was fantastic. I have some nerdy factoids that I found on Wikipedia.
Let's go.
So. The name Marak, it was a name of a knight who was turned into a werewolf by his wife, who had learned these skills from the witch Morgan Le Fay. So it's
classic Arthurian sort of black magic or witchcraft stuff. That's great. That's perfect for the show. I think what Dave Filoni is allowing Star Wars to do is become more mystical and explore some of these more high fantasy elements that I think are denied in Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett and shows like that. So what this show's doing is I think it's allowing to have a character who's just he's just part of the dark side, ensemble. And I think that's and he's almost obviously has a name, but he's kind of formless.
Yeah.
And without identity, could he be a sort of like, could this be necromancy?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we've heard, you know, there's lots of things going on that this could be like, and I kind of like that it's unknown. I like that we don't know, and I like that it's not explored. I think I love that. Or he could just be a species that has gaseous sort of like a circuitry or
I like
blood,
the necromancy idea because, I mean, if in this legend, Arthurian legend, Morgan Le Fay was the one. So, I mean, and we know Morgan in this, show is a witch. So it makes sense he could have just been a spirit, like a resurrected spirit or something, to do some things with force powers, which is wild. But just to do like the corny Dave Wolf thing. So you probably knew this because you've been really into Norse mythology, especially lately. And I know actually I have been too, but
the skull and Hati stuff.
Yeah, you probably mentioned it on an earlier thing, but so
we've talked about it a couple times.
So
they are harbingers of the Ragnarok because they're effectively going to this other galaxy and bringing back the heir to the Empire, right? But I wouldn't be so. It's interesting because I don't think we truly understand what Balin Skull's motivations are yet. No. I think it's sort of still veiled in a major way, I would say.
In a fun way.
In a really fun way where you just don't know what makes him tick and why he's searching for Thrawn. I feel like there could be fun rug pulls with that, and there could be he could be serving a completely different cause than we think he is, basically, which is a lot of people want to get to Thrawn. If you've read the books, you kind of know where the Emperor's mindset is on Thrawn. Yeah. And I wonder if there are any agents tied to sort of
what
the contingency
do you think the
here.
Emperor's mindset is on Thrawn? Because I think that the Emperor just looks at Thrawn as a tool to be used. What am I missing? Because I know you probably have a deeper read on that.
I think Thrawn isn't as lawful evil as Palpatine is. Therefore, Thrawn would try to take control of everything and then almost be dictatorial in trying to run he'd almost be a benevolent dictator. I think he would just try to make good situations happen for everyone in the galaxy and take over the galaxy without issue, basically. And therefore, that would pose a huge problem to the contingency plan and all that stuff that's in order, that's already probably in effect. You know,
that makes so much sense.
Therefore, are there agents that maybe want to take out Thrawn that are part of a more sinister plot? You know what I mean? Like, and Balin Skull, to me, sort of like, he even starts to speak like Palpatine towards the end of this episode. Like when he talks to Sabine, I was like, and then he kind of like takes a meditative beat where he just stands there and like shuts his eyes, and you know, he could be thinking, he could be using the Force to reach out and sense what's bothering her, what's pulling at her in terms of Ezra and her history and Mandalore. And you find out that I guess Ahsoka and Sabine were together when Mandalore was destroyed, right? Or like you're made to think that, and it's because, and that's when their master and apprentice relationship sort of first hit some bumps, and I guess
Sabine's mother was killed. That was revealed, right?
Right.
While she was on
from Balin in this moment where he's talking like, again, I've never seen anyone talk like this to anyone in Star Wars, in the opera of Star Wars. I haven't seen anyone like do this other than Palpatine. It's like, it's such a Palpatine move when he did that. And I was like, I do wonder if this is not like, if Balin and Shin are not Mara Jade almost, like as a concept in a lot of ways.
Wow. So you've got a lot of thoughts. I love this idea that they're sort of like.
I went in on this episode.
I mean, I have a million questions. About that theory, like alone? Like, I guess I'll start with like the idea of. Do you think Thrawn's agenda is the same as the Emperor's, or do you think he's at odds with, Operation Necromancer? Do you think like Thrawn has his own designs?
Yeah, that's why I think that's why I think that they're trying to get information out of Pelion. Because Necromancer is a separate division that I think is connected to the contingency plan more so than anything else.
I think that is the contingency plan. Like that's bring the Emperor back and do this all over again.
Because why would you spread it out across 3 different moths to
Right.
deal with. I feel like you just have one person do it in the unknown
Right.
regions and not like connect it to anyone else. And then also, I just don't think Palpatine would spread it out between
You don't
everyone.
think he
So I
would?
think the contingency plan. Well, I just think the contingency plan. I think a lot of remnant Imperials aren't going to want to serve a like Sith wraith
Yeah.
looking to restore
Right.
their life.
Right. Until it
Whatever
happens.
is
Well, so
happening.
that to me, that's a vote for. He is compartmentalizing all these like not they're not Grand Admirals, they're considered warlords, I guess. So that he like
Yeah.
has his most faithful people on his like cloning project, and everyone else has
Right.
got their own agendas and stuff. But I mean, if Thrawn, like we know that Thrawn was like always from like the novels, he was always the shining star, but was like too dangerous. The elites like never trusted him, but like he probably would have been the best leader. And like maybe Thrawn looks at the galaxy as like this is his chance to actually lead from the top and be the guy. So I'm wondering if either Balin is team Thrawn and is like, no, this guy actually has a virtuous idea for the galaxy, and I'm for that. Or if he's team Palpatine, the Emperor, and is going here to kill Thrawn. So to like
this is a theory I just brought up 10 minutes ago or 5 minutes ago. I haven't heard this. I haven't heard this anywhere on the internet, or I haven't really looked on the internet for any theories or what people are saying about the episode. But it's just the way he was speaking, the dialogue. Like that's the only thing that really pushed me in that.
That's what you're thinking there.
To connect him to
Palpatine, just the way that he goes about it. I mean, it could just be a tried and true Sith, like dark side. Tool that they use. I mean, even their lightsaber form, right? It's taunting is part of the form. It's like imposing your will on them, and that's kind of what that felt like to me. We were talking a little bit about forms before, and I think the last one here. I'm just want to. It's called
Form 5.
Well, there's Vapad, but no, it's got another name actually. So no, the one that I pulled up, it's Demso or Xian, right?
That's right.
That's like Dark Side Form 3. So I don't know. Interesting that there's so much stuff there because now you're making me think like, what if Thrawn has brainwashed Ezra? And he's like, Ezra's, they go and get him. And Ezra's like, no, Thrawn actually, he can actually be the answer to all these problems that the New Republic has. He's like, he's not going to be the Emperor, but it will be a form like the Empire. But it's, he'll be a benevolent dictator. This will be the guy that, Lucas always wanted. And, you could sell people on that. If you had the Empire's infrastructure, but like actually it was like no, but sure. It's like it's actually not a Sith Lord running it. It's Thrawn, and he is the guy with the kind of brain that could, administrate an entire galaxy well, as long as he had no one talking him down. That sounds exciting to me.
Yeah, I am excited to see how Thrawn is incorporated. And sort of Lady Elsbeth and Thrawn's relationship at this point. Morgan Elsbeth, I feel like, and Thrawn is like that. I want to know what that relationship is. I feel like we don't really have any hints about them ever interacting in books or animated shows. So it's like, let's check out what is their backstory?
It's
how
a
do they know each
OP
other?
Squad. I mean, you've got a Night Sister leading 3 Sith, essentially. I mean, it's 3 dark side Force users of varying abilities. And I mean, and then all those like HK assassin droids, which is like amazing. It's a great squad.
Loved the droid fight at the start of the episode, by the way. I just want to acknowledge that in the pod. That was excellent.
Hu Yang, man, again. It's so worried for Hu Yang, but I was like, oh, he can fight. Of course he can fight. I actually
just throwing down. And then you saw him in the last episode. You're like, oh, he can't just whip out some.
Yeah.
Imagine he could go full Grievous on someone if he wanted to.
Yeah,
really.
That's what I expected. I mean, he's got those training sabers on his back, but like he's got to have some real lightsabers.
There's some real sabers in there. Let me see Hu Yang with real sabers in one episode.
Please. I was kind of hoping for that. I was like, oh, it's so funny in real time. I was just watching him, and I was like, they're coming out of the woods and hunting him. And I was like, this could go one of two ways. Like he'd either get like cut down, or he could like just be like OP and just like shred these HK droids, which would be pretty fun. But we got something in between where he was able to survive, but just barely.
I love when Ahsoka and Sabine are running through the woods, and then they come across Maruk and Shin, and then you see kind of Sabine just like breathing heavy and sort of like getting aggro because she just wants revenge. And I was like, this might be the coolest moment I've seen in a while. And then she just, goes full Mr. Pink and just like full clip, just unloads like a full clip at Shin and just darts to the side like Neo. And I was like, this is so cool. Like Filoni is really finding his groove and sort of like the action, sort of like the intimate action set piece stuff, which is like intimate action moments. And I feel like it's great blocking. I love the blocking in that scene. I thought this is really an episode for choreography and blocking, like all around, like almost every scene. The fight with Baylan and Ahsoka, Marok and Ahsoka, and then the Sabine Shin stuff. I was like blown away.
And I mean, of course, there was the forecasting there where like Yu Yang is like, you are better together, and of course they immediately get separated. And I'm like, oh, okay, we know where this is going.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was fun watching Ahsoka fight. It makes sense that she was weakened when she like disabled that the device, which I'm glad she.
When she grabbed the map. Yeah.
Which I was glad she finally did. I'm like, don't go for him, go for the map. Like this is the MacGuffin, But that played out in a very interesting way. And then, I mean, I think we should probably get to the thing, right? Like she fell off a cliff and landed in the world between worlds.
That's just so after the coolest lightsaber fight I've seen in a while, where they're just facing off like samurai, and it's incredible.
I'm surprised we got that fight.
Obviously,
so early. It was great.
Well, obviously, and it's also like I kind of love that the Baylan Skull character is like kind of a medieval knight, sort of his fighting style and everything. It's like a giant claymore he's wielding, and he is like the archetype of like a dark knight or something. I mean, like
Black Knight.
I don't want to evoke Batman or something like that, but just like he's just the kind of bad knight character, which is so cool. You've seen Death Knights sometimes are called in certain fantasy, worlds.
Little Nazgul.
But it's so cool. Like I was like, it's such a fun idea to throw in the mix. And then when you have Ahsoka being so explicitly samurai, it's like that was such a cool fight. Like I can't even stress how cool that fight was. Just them circling each other. But yeah, she gets like battered off a cliff like at the end. Like he's just like hammering down, and then I think it's just one upward slash, and I think she falls off the cliff or something. And I was just like, it was brutal. And then waves are crashing on the shore, and then they kind of just it's sort of like it sort of the camera just tracks left, and then it goes from waves to the floor of the world between worlds, which is redesigned now. It's not just like white beings with like translucent, void in between. It's like it's blue, like Force goes blue.
Yes, in swirls. Yeah,
big change,
definitely. Which is interesting.
It looks like.
I mean, maybe it's like, I mean, we have to wait, right? Because obviously we hear the voice, we see the man, and then we're done. So we don't really have any explanation. We're left to have a podcast and talk about what we think is going to happen in a couple of days.
Let's talk about the actual major reveal of this episode. Anakin Skywalker. Hayden Christensen. With some real nice de-aging technology, real nice softly lit face. Looks as young as he did, in Revenge of the Sith. Clearly, you can tell it's de-aging technology, but it's like I like the approach. I think it's. I almost wish like we did this in Obi-Wan, where they really skew him. They really make him look young, and like they did a great job here. I think he looks great, but also I don't think we quite know what this means yet, and I think we're going to get more context for what Anakin could mean to the story next episode. But Ahsoka basically dies, falls off a cliff, wakes up in the world between worlds. Very Gandalf, falling with the Balrog and the being reborn by the sacred fire and all that stuff. Like are we going towards a resurrection as Ahsoka the White? Are we moving towards a sort of a return basically to the world of the living, This does feel like the world of the dead, given that, or the world between worlds, obviously, as we know it, because Anakin's like, I didn't expect you to see you so soon.
Yeah. So he's waiting for her. So he did say that. So he wasn't responsible for putting her there, which is interesting. And where is there?
Right. How did she get there? Is she just like,
is this death? Like,
is she sinking into the depths of the ocean? Is she splayed out on the jagged rocks? Like, where is Ahsoka? You know what I mean? Did she land on a Purgle? Like, what is going on? Like, what happened?
What happened?
You know what I mean?
Is that really? I mean, so if you've watched Rebels, you've seen in full, you've seen the world between worlds, and it was, there was a portal on Lothal, and Ezra went in there, and he actually pulled Ahsoka into it to save her life once. At the end of her battle with Vader, Anakin on Malachor. So now here she is pulled back in, but instead of Vader, it's Anakin himself there waiting for her. And we know that, Ahsoka's a little, it's not bewitched. She's a little touched by the gods. Her spirit has been refilled by essentially a godlike being in the daughter from the Mortis arc. So I don't know if that helped her out. Again, this is like, again, Filoni may be opening the door for Star Wars to be a little bit more mystical. Maybe Ahsoka is like the Astari from Tolkien's Middle Earth. Maybe we're trying to explore new archetypes, new sort of motifs for Star Wars because a lot of it's just abandoned, I feel like, or a lot of it's very hard science fiction or ensemble based. You have to touch on politics and smuggler, backstories. Right. Everyone gets a backstory,
soldier life, and all this stuff. That's other. I do miss the sort of fairy tale, mythological angle that I think we're going for here, and it's very fantasy, which I adore. So
you and me both.
I can't wait to see what happens, but I have some theories.
Definitely, I did want to mention, just to give some context to your last comment, and then I want you to go off, but. Very much so. We also, during our Core World News days, we did pretty early, actually, we did a breakdown of Joseph Campbell's Hero of a Thousand Faces. And we mentioned it a lot, but I just thought I'd point it out. Like, kind of one of the coolest parts, which is sort of the end of the hero's journey, is that they either die or they speak with gods, they're bestowed gifts. It's a really cool word called apotheosis, which essentially you get made a god. And that is what, that's what happened to Gandalf. And that's what it feels like is happening with Ahsoka here. Like, when we see her on the other side of this, she will have experienced apotheosis, and we're going to get a very, very strong Ahsoka afterwards.
What's great is there's some information written about Gandalf's sort of rebirth in Lord of the Rings, but it's really sort of elemental in a lot of ways. Whereas this is going to be very relationship driven, where I think we're going to get a sort of Anakin repenting, talking about his misdeeds, talking about his misfortune, talking about his failure and the corruption of, both him and the Senate that Yoda and Obi-Wan blame themselves for. And a lot of the Jedi went into exile, blame themselves for, and are just totally dismayed by, and the Jedi themselves have been, they're tarnished, having not been able to see this corruption. And I think that needs to be voiced more. And I think obviously Luke does like catch up work at, high speed with Rey in The Last Jedi about kind of what happened. But I almost want to play that slow. Like, I almost want to see that played extremely
and
slow.
Who better to do it than Anakin?
Let's talk about this. Yeah, let's talk about this downfall. Like, really address it in a major way. Because I think Ahsoka needs that catharsis for her apotheosis to take place, right? Like, she needs to talk about this with him specifically. But the Vader theme does play pretty loudly very end of the episode when we go, screen black or fade out credits. Like, it is loud.
I wonder if that's just for fun, because it's like,
I think it's fun. Yeah, I think it's just
gorgeous curly haired model is really the Dark Lord that is the center of everything, this whole franchise, really.
I do wonder if I do wonder, did Anakin have the scar in Return of the Jedi? And okay, he has the scar.
No, he doesn't have the scar here.
He does not have the scar.
And
Okay.
if memory serves, he does not have the scar in Return of the Jedi when he comes back as a ghost.
Okay, yeah, because I
But
haven't
I
seen
was
that
explicitly
scene.
looking for the scar because that's who I am during that like pivotal
Yeah.
scene, and I did not see it.
So there's a very good chance this is Force Ghost Anakin
Yeah.
Skywalker.
I mean, how else could he be there? Unless,
Well, I'm just wondering that, again, the last time we saw the World Between Worlds, we had the Emperor using some sort of cauldron of fire, actually able to. He actually. So if you go back to Rebels, Palpatine is kind of speaks some strange incantation and fires like a fire blast into the World
but he
Between
doesn't go
Worlds.
in himself.
It goes inside.
But he doesn't go in
What?
himself.
He does not go through the portal himself. He seems to only be able to shoot this fire. The fire does not look dissimilar from the fire that explodes out of the shaft.
True.
With it, in which he fell to his death. I don't want to like start connecting dots.
Yes, you do, and I'm here for it. Let's go.
Trying to think about the sort of, if we are opening up the mystical floodgates with this show, like, are we going to see this blue fire at some point? I do wonder.
Become like a real thing.
Also, if there is someone trying to cling to life who maybe won't become a Force ghost and will never find enlightenment, obviously a dark sider in Palpatine, is the only way for him to stick around is to sort of manipulate and use this World Between Worlds. Because if you watch Rebels, it is like all these R&D programs are launched to basically understand the World Between Worlds to be harnessed and controlled. Yeah. So yeah, just that's a lot of stuff. There was a lot of ideas in my head, and then I was wondering, is a thing I've always been fascinated by is where was Anakin in the sequels?
Yeah,
like. No. It's fine that he's not included in the sequels. It's fine.
It was his empty helmet.
The first 6 movies are undoubtedly his story.
Well, we hear his voice at the end, so he's out there.
No, they definitely cover the bases in terms of he's feels part of the narrative, but I guess the helmet's there a bunch, and Kylo's looking up to him as a
right.
A
but we know
model,
that he's not really talking to Vader. He's talking to the Emperor by the end of it.
So it does make me think, like, maybe you do some really wonderful storytelling to explore Anakin's ghost and why he is occupied or shut out from speaking to people in the sequels. The entanglement with the Emperor's ghost or something. Something that if he was corrupted in life, he's corrupted in some, so I don't know, something more mystical. I would love something that's really interesting to sort of explain why he's not there.
Right.
At
and
all.
He has a connection to Mortis too. I don't know if there's some sort of way that, maybe his spirit can still occupy that and bring balance to the Force, as a Force ghost. There's a lot of different ways you can go with it. It's a lot of fun things to think about there, because it's like, why is he there at all? But I'm like here for it. It's not like, what's he doing? It's like, I don't know. He's there and we're on. And this is, Filoni made this crazy, I don't want to say plot hole, but like this vehicle for storytelling in Rebels, and now and it had so many questions surrounding it. It is very mystical, and now he can kind of use it in any way he wants, in a fun way. So I'm pretty excited. I don't know if you saw this, it was kind of on the down low, but StarWars.com talked about it. I think there's about 8 theaters across the United States are showing episode 5. One of those theaters is in Boston. So on Tuesday, I'm going to go. This was my poor wife. I'm like, hey, it's our anniversary. Good news. We're going to go out. You can eat at any restaurant you want at the Assembly Row. And then, at 8, we get to go to have these free tickets to go see Ahsoka and the thing, which I'm sure she's thrilled about. But I'm thrilled about it, to be in a room with a bunch of nerds yelling at a TV screen, and seeing this 40-minute thing. Yeah.
Incredible.
So, pretty excited about what's coming next. But I don't know. I mean, it could,
Full Guinness.
Yeah. Yeah, I can go to McGuffin's, get a Guinness.
No, joking. No, it's really Anakin's moment and Ahsoka's moment, I guess, to connect, which I'm excited to see. So,
Oh, you're praying for Alec
yeah,
Guinness?
and I guess the new galaxy. I mean, like, of course we're going to theaters. We're arriving in a new
Yeah.
galaxy. Like
Oh,
we are
yeah.
right.
Is it going to get its
Like this
own
is going to
crawl?
be
Is it going to be in a galaxy a little bit closer, but still very far
red
away, or
text.
even further and further away? This galaxy.
Oh no, we ended up in the void,
Yeah.
the endless
That was
void.
awesome because I do love like terror sci-fi, and like when you start dealing with infinity and like people getting lost in hyperspace, and like a moment in real
Yeah,
time feels like a million years in your like in that hyperspace thing, and there's so many like terrifying things that could happen just floating in dark space. Yeah, it's fun.
lost in the depths of the
Yeah,
void.
sounds
Oof.
poetic and fun
Yeah,
for me.
yeah, he is a very poetic character. Big fan of Balin Skull.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind going back in time just to get some more sort of yeah, like a Shakespearean
yeah,
dialogue out of the Jedi
right.
characters because it sounds
So
cool.
I said earlier that I didn't see any theories. I lied. I did see one theory a while ago, and I'm seeing my note about it
Oh,
now.
let's go.
The the Amaxines from High Republic
Hmm.
were a warring tribe that went extragalactic to continue their war
That's
against
right.
some people. And we see the Amaxine station in our known galaxy in far, far away. That's also the Amaxine station is where we see in the comics that Snoke seduces Ben Solo to the dark side to become Kylo Ren. And so I'm wondering, they are on the top of the board for, who could possibly be populating this world out there. It could be in a Maxine world like this, war culture, their home base. Because it makes sense, when they went extragalactic. This seems to be the most adjacent galaxy, I think. It's not just some random galaxy. I think this is probably the next one over. But we'll see. But so we don't know much about
Mm,
the Maxines other than what I just said. So, but that could be interesting because there's
that is
only so many
fascinating.
extragalactic things we even have, and this is one of them.
I am excited. I am hopeful that we get to introduce to a couple cultures out there, a couple new
Yeah,
civilizations. I do wonder if Filoni will do that though, given that we already have so many
yeah.
characters and that there's so much in
Well,
motion
they got to
already.
run into somebody
Uh,
out there, and you just call them the
right,
Amaxines.
that's what
Yeah,
I'm
and I
hoping
think
for.
Claudia
Yeah,
Gray is the one that named that station a Maxine
yeah,
station. So and actually created
yeah,
that world. So that'd be pretty fun to see something created by an author, High Republic author,
yeah.
show up in this. I'm not sure that's happened yet.
No, that would be really cool. Yeah, and they are they are explicitly I think mentioned as being extragalactic
Yes.
travelers. They even build those giant space stations.
Yes.
The Amaxian station is where I think where Snoke and Kylo trained
Yeah.
or something, and like the Gar were bred or born
Yeah.
or whatever. Seeded,
Yeah.
should I say?
Exactly. And then we
Um,
saw it much before then, where that was where the Sith army trapped the Drengir. Was aboard the
that's
Maxine
right. Yeah, yeah,
station.
that's right. And they had a relationship with the
Yeah.
Sith. That's right. That's right. That book was great. I
Yeah. Me
loved that
too.
book. Um, yeah, I am hopeful that we're going to a planet where the Force is nullified
Right.
to put like Thrawn and Sabine as like the strongest people
Right.
on the board because they
Yeah.
would be. Those two
Yeah.
would be the best people in that fight, I feel like. Just given that it would be all
Right.
brains, like everything you do at that point would then be you'd have to MacGyver your way through that
Yeah.
situation. Uh, yeah. So I'm hopeful for that, like a Merc here from the books, the Thrawn
Yeah.
trilogy. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much it for theories. I do wonder if it's Anakin, you
if
know what
it's
I
him
mean?
at all, who else do you think it could be?
Again, it could be an illusion. Who is interested in this moment of getting to the other to, it's I feel like if someone maybe is interested in this plan to retrieve Thrawn and help protect the Empire, it's going to be the Emperor himself. And so like the Emperor's already tampered with the world between worlds. Could he? And he's already mimicked Anakin before to Kylo Ren, and he has
Dude,
all those illusory
great call,
powers.
man. And right now, where is the Emperor? We don't know. And how did he survive that
but
like trap? Like, how did he get from that Death Star to Exegol?
right. So it makes me think it could Force ghosts actually move through the universe differently in a different method than the world between worlds. And the world between worlds is quite literally just a place between time and space, between all of time and space, and sort of nothing going on there. Therefore, purgatory. Therefore, kind of going to be a pretty tough place to spend any amount of time if if you used to be an emperor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's like, and you used to, the whole galaxy basically listen to your every beckon.
Right. But that's where he'd want to be, where he can poke his nose and still control things all across the galaxy from one locale. I think, I don't know if we heard his voice in Shadows of the Sith, that book around Luke Skywalker and Lando.
In the Force Awakens novelization, we do hear a dark side voice reaching out to the main character, to Rey.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. That's a pretty solid bet. So you think?
It could just be the dark side.
So you think
itself.
it could be the Emperor posing as Anakin?
I'm not convinced. I wouldn't be surprised if Filoni created the world between worlds just to create a logic for Kanan inhabiting the wolf after his or before his death.
But the wolf was never there, though.
Yeah, the wolf was never there. Not in what we've seen in the live action or anything. But I just don't know how much thought was put into the world between worlds. I don't know if it really is this explicit, deeply threaded idea of like, hey, this is how Palpatine actually does, still exist after dying. Like he no matter what, there was no Force ghost life for him. He was the dark side. So if he could ever cling to life, it might be in that purgatory between in that area basically.
That makes as much sense as anything.
And it's Anakin in the dark robes too. It's not like my dream scene from all of this, like my dream catharsis for myself would almost be like, this is Palpatine, and like he is playing Ahsoka, and like he was puppeting Balin, and like if this would be my dream scenario, it's not. I doubt this is not going to happen, obviously, and I hold this extremely loosely. But I'm just saying, like, this is just the sort of, I like the dark sorcery side of Star Wars, and I miss it dearly. And I think like it's fun to kind of punch that up, and I feel like I would love if that Anakin we do meet at the end of this episode is Palpatine, sort of trying to manipulate Ahsoka, and then we get brown robed Palpatine Anakin show up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Then we get good Anakin. You know what I mean? Like I almost would really like that. Like that would be fun to me in a major way. That
would be a blast.
That's a real like deep cut,
big swing,
crazy lore, ghost fighting ghosts sort of nonsense. But like I personally think that would be kind of cool. But Occam's razor, probably Anakin, probably going to have a long talk about his errors. And
I have this other theory, and I think it's probably just based on the rumors that we heard before this started about a time jump, where it's like we might not get this interaction for a while. It might sort of like start between them, and then it sort of flashes back to what happened to Ahsoka, the lost time of Ahsoka between that fight with Vader and then when we see her with Luke Skywalker. I'm still sort of waiting for them to backfill that time period, but we might just not get it, which I'm fine with. But I feel like they should at least, we know that she was training Sabine and that her mother died at Baylan Skoll's hand, so that might be all we need to know, but I don't know, maybe there's more. Maybe there's another shoe to drop there.
There's definitely a lot of Jedi boots to drop.
Yes.
Ahead here. So obviously it's hitting cinemas next week.
Yeah.
So
in 2 days. Yeah.
That's going to be exciting. It's going to be some major reveals. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the Thrawn reveal, honestly.
That'd be cool. Yeah. If like we see the other side of it.
How great would that be?
It would make sense to sort of do a Lost thing where it's like we jump to, maybe their story. Yeah.
I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But again, I think there's we got to tie up the loose ends with Ahsoka or not, which is, would you be upset if we kind of just get Ahsoka the White and you kind of don't get a lot of what happened with Anakin?
I'd be fine with that.
You need
but
a full episode of it.
People would lose their mind.
How much time do you think you need in there?
Not much. I think the next episode could bounce back and forth between the things that Ahsoka's saying, and then but they don't really have anything to do with each other. And Thrawn and Ezra, like, I don't know. But I mean, come on, we're here for that conversation. I think that you're talking about this sort of like final true debriefing of the fall of the Jedi Order, from Anakin's point of view. I think that would be fascinating because he was like literally on both sides of it. So, I mean, I think he's the one to tell that story. He's got a lot to sort of talk to. So this, I did want to ask you this question. What do you think is the state of Ahsoka right now? Like, what is her headspace? Because she's flawed. She's not Ahsoka the White right now, right? She's made mistakes. Clearly, Sabine's mother died, but she doesn't seem too broken up over it. She wants to like hang out with, still be a Padawan.
She's even, and she's even, talking about putting, the stopping Thrawn as more important than saving Ezra. Yeah. She's sort of placed that flag a couple times and been like, we're not going to, if it comes down to it, we're not going to save Ezra if we can keep Thrawn away from the galaxy and stop another war. And so that seems to be the explicit motivation that we've heard already in the show. But I feel like, she now has to stop Balin's skull. Like, after this fight, he basically was like, did this whole thing about creation. Sometimes you must create to destroy. Sometimes you must destroy to create. And I was like, okay, now like she has to take him out. Like she has to be this,
arbiter of
goddess of death, and sort of like and basically like just annihilate that whole mindset.
And she flirts with the dark side. I mean, we saw from the previous episode that Sabine essentially leans on her anger to stay even competitive when she's blindfolded in training with Ahsoka. And Ahsoka isn't just like, no, the dark side. She's like, beware using your emotions, that it can unbalance you, which is just sort of like, you can do it, but just you need to know what's up. And when we see Ahsoka, essentially, I mean, I'm convinced she used the dark side to dash Hati's head against that rock. I mean, she was weakened, and then all of a sudden she found this like well of power to just like throw, Hati across the, board there.
And then she was unbalanced and unable to stop the sheer force of Balin's assault. And it was like, you could tell that she only lost probably because she used the dark side just moments before. Like, she was unbalanced, much like the same advice that she gave to her apprentice.
But what if Anakin teaches Ahsoka how to be the gray Jedi that all these fanboys want? I mean, to actually use the dark side in a functional way.
Oh wow, yeah. I mean, we'll use the dark side. I was thinking that like there's more training to be had in the world between worlds, and maybe time isn't relative there, and you can basically be in there for years.
Yes.
Training with Anakin Skywalker.
Apotheosis Anakin Skywalker.
And then return to the world of the living, having trained with Anakin Skywalker for like 50 years in like
because that's what happened to Gandalf, right? I mean, in the extended versions of was it Return of the King or the one before it? But it was the middle one. I think they show his time, and he's like, I was up there for a very, very long time. That's why his hair is white.
Time sort of disappears as a concept where he went and came back, and so that's to me that would be very cool. And I think the shoe that has to drop with the Balin Ahsoka rivalry is that I think they have to fight again, and I think Ahsoka has to basically just like step out of the way of those blows and be like a total master. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like calling for it at this point. And
she might not even need her lightsabers.
That's why I'm thinking I wouldn't be surprised if Filoni compresses this whole Ahsoka the White thing, and basically you could have Ahsoka return as Ahsoka the White, and then much like what Peter Jackson did with Gandalf in Lord of the Rings films, like explain it later and then montage it and sort of like get into it. But like, so it might not be that full episode, you know, we might not get that like, or that chunky side plot of Ahsoka and Anakin next week. This might be the new galaxy next week. It's
going to be big, right? If they're putting it in theaters,
two huge
then
threads.
Like, it's going to be big. Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be cool. But that's all my theories. I think I've got out all my theories on this pod. This is why we do it. We explore stuff.
Exactly. Well said, man. That's exactly right. I think we did the thing. My one last little tidbit that someone did find. When we see the ghost, someone grabbed a frame of it.
Oh yeah, Hera.
Yeah. I mean, Hera, yeah, whatever.
No, we were like, send a squadron last week, or we were like, we'll send a couple of squadrons, or send just a frigate, right? Like one frigate.
No, she just comes with the ghost and four.
Yeah, I know. She comes with the ghost, and it's like Phoenix.
Yeah,
Phoenix
no, they didn't want her to do anything. And she got to have her rebel moment where she's like, "Nope, I'm doing this." Anyways. That's very in line with the original trilogy. But
yeah, we got a locked tinfoil on attack position.
Yeah,
pretty explicitly said by Teva.
Carson Teva. Yeah, he's there. Teva. He's emerging as sort of the star of the New Republic Rangers.
He made it out safe, right?
Yes. It was a couple red shirts got hacked. And it was funny because I kind of expected. We know that Carson Teva and Gara Zeb Aurelius are buddies. Zeb. So I was kind of surprised to not see Zeb in one of those X-wings.
Oh, you will.
Think that's happening?
I'm going to be Adam for tonight and say you will.
Thank you, Adam from afar.
Adam, I know you'd say this if you're on the pod tonight.
Somewhere he'll be nodding tomorrow. That might happen there too. That was just sort of an ancillary thing. But actually, so if you zoom in on the yoke of the ghost, there's a photo, as they do. Like there's, even though photos don't exist in the galaxy far, far away. You
mean with Jason and Hera? I was so happy in this episode just to see together. Jason and Hera.
No, they had a photo of she has a photo of Kanan Jarrus like tucked taped to her console behind her.
Oh, really?
Behind her control yoke.
Can you see it? Is it Freddie Prinze?
It's kind of tough, like when you have to magnify that much. But it does kind of look like Freddie Prinze. So,
there it is.
But it's close enough for government work. So that's pretty cute. I love Kanan Jarrus as a character, and
such a cool character.
I would love to see him some other way. And if Filoni can do it and have it make sense, he'll do it. But I'm not counting on that one.
Well, we might be getting Ezra, and I think with Ezra might come.
Oh, maybe
our best shot of getting Kanan
flashback or something. They're going to talk about him for sure.
He'll definitely. Ezra will likely say Kanan if we do meet Ezra, I imagine.
Yeah, I think we will. But I guess we'll have to wait till next week to figure it out. One reason why we're so tardy on this, Grant and I are in this work fugue. That's like
fugue state of work
until like September 22nd. So otherwise we would bring this to you earlier. But if we can figure out how to do it, launch these pods a little quicker, we'll do it. If not, then you've got some more coverage. Coming in a little after the initial burst, so you got it there.
It helps to think about ruminate about the theories and meditate like a Jedi about what you saw, especially with Ahsoka. There's a lot to chew on with these episodes, so I think our coverage will be well before the next episode airs, but I think more closer to the weekend until October. I think, beginning of October, we'll have. Earlier in the week.
Well, if it's going to be still coverage that the sooner the better. We'll see how it goes. But
comics. There's Dark Droids. There's really fun comic runs that are out now.
I'm excited about the comics. I'm excited about Red Blade that I've been casually reading, and it's been so fun and it's so good. I can't wait for you to read that, Grant. You're going to really like it.
Yeah, I'm excited. Delilah S. Dawson, I think, is one of. I loved Phasma. She did. I think Black Spire we read too, which
Phasma was an amazing one. And we talked. I'm reading it because we talked to Meg Dowell, and she adores every book, like analyzes every book. And she's had a steady top 3 forever, and she put Red Blade into the top 3, actually replacing Phasma.
Oh wow!
And as is her third favorite book ever, and that's why I was like, oh, all right, I gotta check this out. And it's just been so pleasant to be able to snuggle up at night and read that book like casually and just really appreciate
That is great.
it. So yeah, good times. More good stuff to come very, very soon. Can't wait to talk to you next week about the exciting 5th episode of Ahsoka. Until then, have a lovely week. May the Force be with you. And we'll talk to you next week on
Cantina Chronicles.